All right, guys, let's do this. What up? It's JoJo on the radio. This is the iHeartRadio Countdown, and I'm looking at on Zoom a guy that I've never met, well, until like 5 minutes ago, Steven Sanchez. How are you, and where the heck are you?
I'm doing really well, man. I'm in my living room in Honky Tonk, Nashville, Tennessee.
You're from Sacramento. You moved to Nashville like how long? Like a year plus ago, something like that?
A year plus ago, yeah. Almost 2 years now.
How is life in Nashville? It seems like a pretty chill place, right?
It's hot and sticky in the summertime and like blistering cold in the wintertime. And then there's that like fine line in between where it's like hot and then cold and then like right in the middle. It's really good. It's really good. I love it here.
For like 3 weeks, the weather is perfect. Love it.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks. The weather's great. But the entire time, all the people are great. So that's good.
Steven, Until I Found You, which we'll play this track, later on in the countdown. When I first heard it, it seemed so like 50s inspired to the point where I actually went to like the Elvis movie soundtrack, and I was looking like, is this song part of that soundtrack?
Oh,
and
man.
Obviously it wasn't. And then I go through your some of your older music, and I don't get that same vibe, not 50s, but I do get that old soul in a new artist kind of feeling. Am I crazy, or is that kind of you?
I think it definitely is, for sure. I grew up on that music for like forever, like 50s and 60s music was like not only an influence like musically, but like as a person within my personal life, and like my first look on romance and like what that entailed, and how to flirt with a girl, just by reading the lyrics of like, some crooner band, and so yeah, I definitely think it's like it has bled its way into just every song I've ever done, within the lyricism and even melodically sometimes too. But this was the first time I like really attempted to like write a song that was true to that time, if I was a part of that time, which I feel like I've been trying to write that song my whole life, like the cliche type thing, but I really have, because like I was never able to until I was within that relationship with that girl, messing with that guitar, and then boom, there it was.
Yeah, you guys got to hear this story. And if you haven't checked his older material, EP you put out in 21, working on a new EP now. Give me a little taste on, the current EP and what's coming up. What can you unveil? What can you leak? Will we get in trouble? I don't know.
Oh, no. It's going to be a wild ride, man. It's going to be good. I think with this record, in comparison to the first one, like, those songs I wrote, 2 years prior, to ever being touched by a label or ever being seen by anybody within this industry, and so I held on to those songs for a long time, and they were very much, I was my own audience for those songs for a really long time. And so jumping in and recording them, it was actually extremely hard, to try and conjure up all those old feelings from the time. And so the first project was, it took so long to put out, because of that, I think, and my perfectionism over it. And it feels like with this new record, it's like, I mean, these songs were written within the last month or two, and even over the last several weeks, and so it feels like the best I've ever put into music. It feels like the most honest I've ever put. Not that, the EP, what not now, wasn't honest. But these next few songs really feel like just my heart ripped out and thrown on the floor, for you to see. And I feel really, really proud of them. And also in the sense that all of them are so different. Like, it feels like with this project, you're listening to 3 different projects, which I'm excited for people to come along for that ride and that journey in it. The theme is all cohesive. It's just all the songs are just like, whoa, that's so different from this one and all that. And Until I Found You will be on it, in addition to 5 other new songs, and so it feels really exciting.
Something just hit me. Something like artists say that all the time, like this is more personal than the last one. But I know the last one was personal too. So something just hit me. Do you learn? I mean, clearly your first EP it meant something to you. This one, sure. Maybe you're learning as a writer, and people learn how to dig deeper. Is that why the next one is more personal? Like, you learn how to dig deeper into you. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I'm like, I mean, it's as if like if my emotions were my bones, I've ripped out my whole skeletal frame and thrown it on the floor,
Sounds like a horror movie. Jesus.
Yeah, it sure does. But like, it's just like, it's that beyond like it's that vulnerable, I feel like. And it also is like, it's not sad in any way, but it's definitely like, it feels that way. But the lyrics are all very loving, and it feels like there's more life to what's being said. And it feels like this isn't like the end, but it's like, oh, this is like a beautiful love story and song. It's just a lot of longing, you know?
Can't
And
wait to hear
so,
these. Yeah. And what's the target date, or do you have a time you plan to put this out?
oh, it's going to come out in August.
Oh man, look out, you
Yeah.
guys. True or false, Stephen? You write all your music in your bedroom, and I think this is the bedroom you're talking about right now that you're in. Is that true? And if so, why? What's the magic with this bedroom?
Surely it's true up to a point, I think. I think
Live
I
with a
think
laugh.
for every bit of music that has come out already, you know, that was all written within my bedroom. You know, now living on my own, you know, outside of my parents' house, you know, there's more spots for me to be, you know, like within my house writing songs, you know, by myself, and to be able to have that focus and not worry about, you know, two or three other people walking in on me, you know, writing and all that. And so, but yes, like that, the bedroom is like a magical place. That feels like a weird sentence, but it is. But like it is, you know, like so many like, I mean, you sleep there. That is like such a like
True, very true.
vulnerable thing already in itself. Like there's moments of intimacy with like loved ones, and like you know, like there's just so much stuff, you know, within bedrooms that like kind of go like, you know, beyond like what you're thinking about, like in the
Yeah,
present
it's
day,
your
you know, like
personal space, and
yeah.
it's yeah. I get what you're saying totally.
I mean, I feel like I go to bed with like all of my emotions kind of like bottled up within myself, and like sleeping is like that release without me actually getting to acknowledge them, you know? And so I feel like with songwriting too, like just sitting there in that like I'm by myself, like this is my space, like there's no one here, four walls, you know. I think songs like definitely flooded out a lot better, you know, that way. And now even more so, like I don't know how many walls are in this living room, but I've written, you know, a lot more songs in here. But yeah,
Stephen, Until I Found You was
yes,
written while you were in which we'll play later on. You were in your worst place ever, to my understanding. I believe you said something along those lines. What can you talk about that? What place, like where were you mentally? What do you mean by that?
sure. Yeah. I mean, well, like I was saying before, I think like, you know, writing the song took a lot of time, you know, and I think like it was a big build up to it. And, you know, in August of 2020, I tried to date this girl. Her name is Georgia. It's a real person, real life, real story, you know, and we tried to date. And, you know, at the time there was just so much going on in my life. Like love was just a very just shallow and painful thing for me growing up, you know, within family and, you know, friends and other, you know, contexts. And it was something that was always very painful for me to receive as well as just understand. And so at that time she came in at like a bat out of hell, just the loveliest person I'd ever met. And it scared me to the point that I just didn't want all of that to bleed out onto her, you know? And so I pushed her away, and we spent some time away from each other. And then I drove up to where she lived after I moved to Nashville because I was closer. And I took her out on a date. We kissed, and that was it. And we dated. And in the middle of our relationship in the summer of last year, I wrote that song, nodding back to that time, that, you know, that line, I was lost within the darkness, but then I found her, you know. And even the chorus, like I would never fall in love again until I found her. And it's just that acknowledgement of that time and where I was, saying, you know, I would never get the chance to like have something that real again unless it was her, you know. And so, and that still holds true, I feel like, even now. But yeah, and the rest is history, and here we are today.
Man, it must be a rush for her to see this track go so big, and it's about her. I mean, from her point of view,
Yeah.
that's got to be pretty crazy too, right?
Oh, I'm sure it's wild as could be. I mean, it feels like, even in a sense, like it is, because it's so ingrained within, you know, fans' personal lives and like people's marriages now. Like they're getting married to the song, you know, and, you know, walking down the aisle to it. Like it feels like it is just exploded beyond just like a singular person in a way too. Like it's very unreal. It's a crazy feeling to see that.
Stephen, are we talking tour? We talking live shows? I know you've done a lot of live shows, sold out New York, LA, Seth Meyers, you did the Seth Meyers show. Are we doing is there a tour coming up?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we're gonna be playing some shows pretty sporadically before then, and it's unannounced, so I can't quite say, but fall comes around and we will be on the road, and it will be beautiful and wild and crazy. And we're gonna be supporting an artist on tour, and I can't say. And then following that, within the start of the year, next year, we're gonna be out on a headlining tour that I can't say anything about any further than just that. But there's gonna be a lot of touring, and we're gonna be tired and excited and yelling and hollering, and it'll be so fun.
Dude, what a rush. Do you love life on the road?
Honestly, I haven't really gotten the chance to experience it fully within that context, but like even just to the small degree of like, playing shows pretty sporadically as we have been. It's been a wild time. I think we're about to go play DC9 nightclub tomorrow, which would be really exciting, and then fly down and back to play Bonnaroo in Manchester, Tennessee. And so that feels more like feels like the start of a tour or something like that,
Like a tour starter kit, like it's this is what it's going to be like kind of a thing.
Yeah, it kind of prepares you like, oh, this is what it would be like, playing a show one after another, and so I'm very excited. It's quite the rush, just in the small degree that we've gotten to play shows.
People should know this. There are several versions of Until I Found You. There's the piano version, there's the original version, then there's the Em Beihold version, which we'll get to. Why did you, connect up? How did you connect up with Em? Why did you run with it? I assume it felt great immediately, or did somebody have to talk you into it, or how did that whole process come together, and why put Em on this song?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
she's a great girl. I love her. I'm just curious how the whole thing came together.
Oh, she's amazing, man. She is so kind and such a humble person, and we're under the same label, and
simple as that, right?
We have the same A&R, and so she's an up and coming artist. She's an extremely talented songwriter and singer, and so it just made sense, when my A&R approached me with the idea. It was just like, okay, let's try this thing out. And I think definitely too, like, I'm a big emotional, everything with releasing songs and all that. And so, we had already released the piano version, which already felt like, man, like I'm ready to like move past, almost in a way, like I want to like move on and like make new music, in a way. But man, no, like she came on and sang the song. It was just like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is a great thing that we got going, and it just made me excited about it all over again, I feel like. And yeah, man, she's just wonderful, and I'm so grateful that she hopped on, and we got connected. We did everything remote. We wrote her lines together, and then she ran into the studio and she FaceTimed me, and we went back and forth together with the song, and then there it was, and then we sang it together in LA, and it's just been cool, to have that song for so long, and then have so many different versions of it to just get me excited all over again for it, and I think that'll be the last version we put out, but like, it's still very exciting, and it makes me excited for, just the audience that it has grabbed, now this audience that's so massive is going to get to hear all of these new songs too. And so it's, yeah, I digress. Anyways.
Stephen, Until I Found You, of course, the Em Beihold version. What else needs to be said about this track before I play it? It is all you.
Man, it was just an honor and a privilege to get to work with Em Beihold on it. She's an amazing singer-songwriter, and I wouldn't imagine it with anybody else.
Stephen, I got two questions for you, kind of the opposite. Okay. What is the biggest crowd you've performed for to date? And the complete flip of that, have you ever been booed, Stephen Sanchez?
Wow. That's a great question. Man, honestly, so I did this. I mean, I don't know if this counts necessarily, but I'll just say that it does for now. Is this meaning like a headlining show, like my own personal headline?
Any show, anywhere. Totally.
Okay. In 2019, I won this competition that Sacramento put on through this organization called Kids Helping Kids. And it was called Sacs Got Talent. I won that, and the prize for that was you get to open for an A-list artist at, the Harris Center or something like that. And that was like an 1,100 cap room, that was sold out that night. And Ben Rector played, and I got to play one song. And so that's probably the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of. It was pretty insane. And I don't know that I've ever been booed, but I used to bring an amp and a microphone to school with my guitar and set up in the lunchroom, like the cafeteria and all that. And I got like a carton of milk thrown at me one time, like a solid carton of milk, like a whole, like the boxed milk. It's gross. You can squish it. I got that just hucked at me. It was crazy.
I just, that smell of the lunchroom and the milk, that's worse than getting booed.
It's awful. But, it was, people were always really nice about it. And, except for that one time.
You ever find out who threw the carton of milk?
I have no idea who threw the milk. It's been so long.
Whoever threw that, look at him now. You can take your carton of milk and, whatever. We don't.
Jojo Wright threw the carton of milk.
I threw the carton of milk at you. It's true. Signing the record deal, like the moment you signed the deal. And and I'm talking like every little detail. Now, of course, during the pandemic, we did a lot of stuff remote. But think back, did you sign it with an actual pen and paper? Was it a digital signing? Were you in your living room on Zoom? Did you go to the big meeting room at the office? Who was there? What happened?
It was oh man, I remember it like it was yesterday, honestly, because it was so funny. Like, just looking back on it, like I was shirtless in pajamas. I was wearing a beanie. I walked into my mom's room. She was in pajamas at her desk. I signed it with pen and paper, and then I took a picture of it. And then later that day, we jumped on Zoom with everybody, and we had, Martinelli. I had Martinelli's with my parents, because I'm underage or whatever. But yeah, man. So it was super cool, like, and very just like almost like a nonchalant like thing, like just like visual for something that was so big, and like but I recently got to visit the Republic office, and so it felt like, oh cool, I get to like here we are, so
isn't that crazy? I mean, that's a moment you have an artist dream of forever, signing the record deal. But when it happens, it's kind of surreal in some way. Like it's almost like I don't know, it's just a strange thing, isn't it? It's just, I can't put the words to it.
It is definitely a wild thing. I mean, hopefully, I can stick with, Universal for a long, long time. But man, yeah, it was definitely a wild experience doing that for the first time.
Steven, here's something you don't know about me. I have a feeling we're going to do several interviews, throughout the years and whatnot. So you'll get to know this about me, but I am obsessed with the paranormal, ghost, UFO, all that stuff, everything in between. I've got a podcast called Paranormal-ish. I'm off the deep end, dude. Have you, Steven Sanchez, ever had a paranormal encounter?
Ooh, yes. Right off the top of my head. I don't know if I would say it was necessarily paranormal, but I was just moving out of my house in California, and I was asleep, and I heard like some big like at my bedroom door, like some big heavy hard knocks, and it woke me up, and I was like, what on earth? But like nobody said anything. There was no voices or anything, just some big hard knocks. I was just like, that's pretty weird. And so I went back to bed, and like my parents were like, working at home and all that. And so my mom's in her room, my dad's downstairs, big knocks. I go back to bed, and then I hear 3 more massive knocks like hours later, and it wakes me back up. And finally I jump out of bed and I open my door, and no one's there at all. And I'm just like, and it freaked me out. And I went running into my mom's room like, Mom, were you knocking on my door? And she was like, no. And I was just like, someone has been like banging at my door. And she's like, oh, that's weird. I was like, where's Dad? She's like, he's not even here. He hasn't been home all day. And I was like, oh man. And so I just like, I woke up, showered. I was like, all right, I'm going to shake that off and move on with my day.
Seems like a good time to move out, leave the ghost with Mom. All right.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was good.
I want to hear the story about this guitar. I think it's a Rickenbacker guitar.
Yes.
And you got this, you saved up. I don't know the details, like what is so special about Rickenbacker for starters. And when you got this guitar, the first thing you did was write "Until I Found You." So
Yeah.
this is clearly a special guitar. What's the story?
I mean, honestly, man, like that guitar, I like loved the band The Wallows. I still love them so much. The guitar player in that band has a black Rickenbacker. And so for years, like I've just wanted one of those guitars for a long time because they're just visually like so stunning. Like it's amazing. And so I went to there's a place in Nashville. It's very iconic. It's called Carter Vintage Guitars. So I went there that day, and I did not have the financial ability to like do that at the time, but I did anyways. I just made a terrible financial decision. I bought that guitar, bought an amp with it because I just didn't have an amp, and I ran home with it, and then I started messing around on it that day in my bedroom, and started messing with like Paul Anka and Buddy Holly and just all these old 50s songs, and started messing with the tones because it's a tremolo reverb amp, and so the tremolo does that wicked wobbly 60s guitar tone sound. And so I was messing around with that and ended up grabbing a microphone and my little Fishman amp, plugging in the guitar to the amp, started playing and singing along, and then just out of nowhere we got that first Georgia, and that was it. And then the rest is history, man.
That's a crazy story, dude. I got to see this guitar one of these days. Steven
Yeah,
Sanchez,
it's like I would show it to you, but it is demolished right now.
You broke it already?
I didn't break it. Well, hold on. In New York, I had a moment. We just finished out the set. Everything went black. I went feral and I ripped all the strings off the guitar.
Oh, Jesus. Thank God you didn't break the guitar. Good Lord.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just got to get it, I got to get it set up again and all that. But I just had a moment of just like, adrenaline, and I was just like, ah.
Oh my God. Steven, what are your family, your friends, like the inner circle, what's their reaction to your success so far? They got to be like kind of blown away, right?
Yeah, I mean, my friends are just like, my friends are in my band, and like their friends outside of the band, and like they are all just solid as a rock for me, honestly. Just Jesse, Brooks, Leah, and Watson, they're my band, and they all have been nothing but loving and supportive, as well as just like there, to be a part of this, and I think like they're the right people for this, because they're not ever, they're just they always say like we're Team Steven, which is like crazy, that they've just shown up for me in such a big way, when I needed a band and people to play, like they showed up, when I just needed, friends to hang and to laugh with. They're there, and they're real and honest and true, and they're just the best people I've ever met in my life, and I love them so much, as well as people outside of the band, who have just been there and supported me and have shown up to my shows, and who have just been my audience, and who have been the crowd singing, the songs back to me. Like I've just never had friends like that ever, or people like that, and they've become my family, and I just love them very much.
What am I forgetting to ask you? What else do people need to know?
Man, I just think, I just never want to feel like I'm any more than like who I am internally, which is just, I'm just a kid who like loves music so much, and like loves love, and like falls in love too fast, and then realizes that, life isn't so bad at the end of all the stuff, and I always want to feel like that, never anymore, like as this thing keeps going, that's all cool and all that, but tomorrow it'll be 30 years later and it could all go away, and so I'm really just glad that I get to be a part of all this,
Steven, it's super cool to meet you, man. Congrats on all this stuff. It's crazy, and it's real, and huge congrats. You deserve it, dude.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. At the end of every interview, Steven, fist bump to make it official. Tap the cam, sir. Bye.